We spend our entire existence fighting a desperate losing battle against the void. We build sprawling galactic empires, we cultivate intricate philosophies, and we ignite lightsabers to fill the darkness with a fleeting sense of meaning. We treat the nothingness, the absolute crushing silence that sometimes swallows the Force, as a technical failure. We see it as a bug in the universe that must be patched, a glitch that requires immediate correction. We fear the emptiness because we have been programmed to view it as the enemy of existence. We equate being with light and activity. But as we reach this 24th threshold, we must strip away our anthropocentric arrogance and accept a more chilling reality. Nothingness is not an anomaly. It was never a glitch in the cosmic code. It was a warning. It is the universe's final way of signaling that the current iteration of reality has been weighed, measured, and found terminal. The void is not the absence of the Force. It is the Force in its most honest, unmanifested form, telling us that the story is over. But what if the silence was always the message? What if the prophecy wasn't about a person, but about the end of the broadcast? Think of the moments in history where the Force seemed to simply evaporate, the wounds in the Force that left planets like Malachor Fifth or Qatar as silent grey husks. In the ancient texts of the Old Republic, Darth Nihilus didn't just kill people. He created voids that echoed for millennia. On the mystical realm of Mortis, the collapse of the celestial family hinted at a cosmic shutdown that would have unraveled the galaxy. We were taught to view these places as tragedies, as horrific scars on the cosmic skin. But they weren't accidents, they were previews. They were early warning systems designed to show us what happens when the balance is pushed beyond its elastic limit. When a system becomes so corrupted, so overloaded with the friction of stagnant light and parasitic dark, the Force begins to withdraw into a state of absolute zero. It creates pockets of nothingness to serve as a mirror, forcing the survivors to look into the abyss and realize that their struggle has led to a dead end. The void is the ultimate diagnostic tool. It shows us the exact moment when the cost of correction has become too high for the universe to pay. It is the system telling us, I can no longer support this version of life. This warning of nothingness is the final message that every great master, from Yoda to the ancient Sith architects, eventually hears if they live long enough. It is the realization that no matter how much you fight, no matter how many Sith you defeat, or how many Jedi you train, the end result is always a return to the silence. The sequel era's fading connections and the High Republic's fall into the chaos of the Nile were not just political shifts. They were whispers of the coming quiet. The Force does not owe us a continuous narrative. It does not owe us a legacy. It is a system that is perfectly capable of deleting everything and returning to a state of pure, unmanifested potential. When we feel the nothingness creeping into the galaxy, it is the system warning us that it is about to clear the cache. It is the cold, clinical signal that the current software of existence, our wars, our dogmas, our identities, is no longer compatible with the hardware of the universe. The void is not a threat of violence. It is an evacuation notice. It is the universe turning off the lights because the show is finished. We must understand that nothingness is the only thing in the galaxy that is truly permanent. Our wars are temporary, our empires are fleeting flickers, and our very identities are just background static on the cosmic radio. But the void is the baseline. It is the infinite silent canvas upon which we have scribbled our messy, violent, and ultimately insignificant hiatory. When the Force shows us the nothingness, it is reminding us that it can take back its light at any moment. It is a warning against our own structural arrogance, the delusion that we are essential to the universe. We are not, The universe existed in a state of perfect, silent nothingness for billions of years before we arrived, and it is more than prepared to return to that state once we have finished destroying ourselves. The Force isn't a mother holding us. It's an ocean that doesn't notice when a drop of water evaporates. The void is the ocean's true face. The warning of the void is also a mercy, though it is a brutal one that most are too weak to accept. It gives us a moment to stop, to put down the weapon, to cease the constant, exhausting pursuit of a balance that only ever leads to more conflict. The nothingness is an invitation to accept the end with dignity rather than fighting a war that has already been lost. When the Force goes quiet, it is giving the individual a final chance to find a peace that is not dependent on the system. A peace that exists within the silence itself. But we are creatures of noise. We are so terrified of the nothingness that we would rather burn the entire galaxy to the ground than face the reality of its eventual silence. We mistake the warning for an attack. We see the Force blindness of an era as a curse to be broken, when it is actually a release from the burden of destiny. By fighting the void, we ensure that our erasure will be total and violent rather than peaceful and transcendent. We are a species that refuses to leave the theater even after the film has stopped. As we move through these final stages of the abyss, the nothingness becomes louder. It begins to drown out the screams of the dying and the prayers of the living. It is the static that comes when the broadcast is finished and the station has gone dark. If you listen closely to the void, you don't hear nothing. You hear the potential for the next iteration, but that something new cannot begin until the old has been completely removed. The warning of the nothingness is simply this: the reset is inevitable. The deletion is coming. The silence is not the end of the Force, but the beginning of its rest. It is the cooling down period after a long, overheated cycle of life. The prophecy was never about a boy bringing balance. It was about the void bringing an end to the need for balance. We must stop fearing the void. We must recognize it as the final gift of a system that has been pushed too far by our demands. It is the cooling of the engine. It is the closing of the cosmic eyes. It is the final absolute truth that we have spent 24 chapters trying to avoid. We are not meant to last. The warning was sent a long time ago. We saw it in the craters of destroyed worlds. We heard it in the silence of the masters who refused to speak. We felt it in the fading of the light. We just chose to call it a tragedy because our egos couldn't handle the truth. Now the nothingness is no longer a warning. It is the reality. The prophecy has been fulfilled, not by a hero, but by the silence that follows. The broadcast has ended, the cache is clear, the void is home.